$100 million in art, gone. In the blink of an alarm, just weeks earlier, the Louvre was celebrating record attendance and global prestige. So where did the masterpieces go? And how did thieves outsmart the museum's most advanced security? That question hung over Paris like a storm cloud the day investigators confirmed what the world feared. Priceless paintings, sculptural treasures with values that stretch into the hundreds of millions, vanished. And no, this wasn't a medieval tale of wandering brigands. This was 21st century crime. Imagine you're standing in front of the Mona Lisa. Imagine the crowds, the clicks of cameras. Imagine leaning in, eyes tracing every brushstroke. That's the image the Louvre has built for decades, a fortress of culture, a beacon of heritage. But according to French police reports, something darker was unfolding beneath that polished image. In the early morning hours of March 25th last year, a sophisticated group of thieves struck the Louvre. Within minutes, they bypassed motion sensors, disabled alarms, and walked out with a haul estimated at over $100 million in cultural assets. According to official statements, the operation wasn't sloppy. It was precise, professional, almost surgical. This wasn't just a theft. It was a statement. And for police, insurance investigators, and art world insiders, it became the biggest security failure in the museum's history. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to break down how trust was built, how it was broken, and what happens when a legendary institution faces a threat it didn't fully see coming. Let's start with the Louvre itself. The Louvre is not just a museum, it is a symbol, a palace converted into the world's premier art repository. Tens of thousands of visitors pass through its halls daily. Its security protocols are layered and complex. Yet, like any complex system, layers can be exploited. In the decade leading up to the heist, the Louvre invested heavily in technology. State-of-the-art cameras, infrared sensors, pressure-sensitive flooring, and a sprawling network of security personnel positioned throughout galleries. According to public disclosures, the museum spent millions upgrading its systems between 2015 and 2020, and that's where the first layer of trust was built. Visitors walked through grand halls believing they were protected by cutting-edge surveillance. Curators curated under the assumption that technology and personnel would protect their charges, and insurance markets underwrote coverage at rates that reflected that confidence. Insurance underwriters are in the business of quantifying risk. When a museum boasts advanced defenses and years of incident-free operation, premiums go down. That's how markets work. The Louvre's global reputation reduced perceived risk, and that perception mattered as much as the physical assets inside. But reputation can be misleading. In early 2024, internal audits flagged anomalies. Not major security breaches, but small operational gaps, cameras out of sync, delayed alarm responses, tiny blind spots. Nothing big enough to trigger alarm bells, at least not publicly. And the Louvre chose to fix these issues incrementally. That decision was rational on paper, but in practice, slow fixes carry hidden costs. According to interviews published in European press, personnel shortages in key staff positions led to deferred maintenance. One security consultant described it as patchwork repairs on a living system. That consultant, who asked to remain anonymous, told reporters that the museum was caught between modernization budgets and daily operational demands. Still, to the outside world, this was a fortress. Private collectors, diplomats, and art investors saw the Louvre's vaults and walls as virtually impregnable. That confidence is the currency of institutions like this. Without it, attendance drops. Donations falter. Global standing erodes. And so the world watched as the Louvre prepared for its biggest spring exhibition in history, a showcase of rare works on loan from across continents. Estimates of total value ran well above $250 million. The press called it a triumph of cultural diplomacy. The calendar flipped to March 1st, and the exhibit drew record pre-booking numbers. Critics praised the curation. Photos of visitors smiling, taking selfies, circulating across social media. Behind the scenes, however, subtle warnings began to surface. In security logs later obtained by authorities, a pattern emerged. A handful of CCTV feeds showed intermittent glitches. Timestamps that didn't align, motion detectors that reset without clear cause. And on March 10th, just 2 weeks before the theft, a maintenance contractor reported an unidentified interference with core security network frequencies. The Louvre's technology team filed a ticket. And then, as often happens in large institutions, the ticket slid down the priority list. Think of this like a house with a squeaky door. You hear it, you note it, but you don't fix it immediately because nothing catastrophic has happened yet. This kind of risk buildup rarely makes headlines, but in complex security ecosystems, it matters. Those warnings would, in hindsight, become crucial clues in how the thieves exploited these very weaknesses. But in early March, curators and tourists alike were unaware. They were still riding the wave of confidence built over decades. Then came the night of the heist, a night that would expose every assumption, every deferred maintenance ticket, every blind spot that experts had been quietly tracking. But before we get to that moment and how the thieves leveraged these hidden cracks, we need to understand precisely how they did it. Because this was not a smash and grab, it was not opportunistic, it was calculated. And that calculation began long before anyone flipped a single security switch. The heist wasn't about brute force, it was about knowledge. According to French investigators, the thieves spent months, possibly years, mapping the Louvre's internal rhythms. Staff schedules, alarm cycles, camera rotations, even cleaning crews' routines. Every detail mattered. Think of it like a financial system under attack, just as a hedge fund collapse can stem from hidden leverage or a mispriced derivative. A museum theft of this scale exploited invisible weaknesses. The Louvre's fortress had cracks, and the thieves knew exactly where to strike. It began with the exterior. CCTV footage, later reviewed by authorities, showed an unassuming van parked near the Louvre's carousel entrance days before the heist. Security logs show no unusual activity, a testament to the thieves' subtlety. According to police reports, they used that time to test sensor triggers and response times, essentially probing the system as a trader probes market liquidity. Inside, the team deployed what investigators call a multi-vector intrusion strategy. Each member had a specialized role, one on tech disruption, one on physical movement, and another coordinating extraction and timing. They brought equipment capable of temporarily blinding motion detectors and intercepting networked alarms. This wasn't improvised, it was industrial-grade planning. According to court documents, the thieves exploited a known vulnerability in infrared detectors, a blind spot created by a maintenance oversight in 2024. They moved in sequences synchronized to security patrols, allowing them to bypass checkpoints without triggering alerts. Then came the extraction phase. Paintings were carefully removed from their frames and secured in specialized cases designed to minimize environmental damage. Sculptures were disassembled and packed into custom crates. Investigators noted that the operation's speed was shocking, everything taken in under 25 minutes without a single alarm sounding. Here's the key point. The heist functioned like a financial fraud scheme. Each move was calculated, risk-assessed, and layered. Just as an accounting scandal might hide losses through shell corporations and off-balance sheet entities, the thieves masked their movements through legitimate-seeming actions. Contractors moving equipment, staff entering restricted zones, maintenance routines, all ordinary activity that blended perfectly with the museum's rhythm. Open loops emerge here. How did such a sophisticated operation go unnoticed by one of the world's most technologically advanced museums? According to expert analysis published in Le Monde, it was a combination of overconfidence and outdated protocols. The Louvre had invested heavily in new technology, yes, but integration was patchy. Certain sensors were not networked correctly, and alarm redundancies failed in sequence. In other words, the system worked in theory, but in practice, gaps remained. Another layer mirrors financial crime, misdirection. The thieves used decoy alarms, triggering alerts in peripheral zones, while the core extraction happened elsewhere. It's akin to manipulating market signals. While regulators watch one area, the real activity occurs elsewhere. And the timing, that was critical. Investigators found that the thieves executed the heist during a scheduled internal audit shift. Staff movement, normally predictable, was altered by auditors temporarily removing key personnel from certain galleries. According to reports, this coincidental timing dramatically reduced the chance of immediate detection. Imagine standing in the Louvre surrounded by priceless works, unaware that every second counts against you. This heist wasn't just about speed, it was about precision. Every frame removed, every crate packed, every doorway crossed was orchestrated to maintain anonymity. The investigation revealed more digital traces suggested prior reconnaissance of museum IT systems. Security networks were subtly probed for months. Unencrypted test signals were sent to cameras and detectors, mimicking internal communications. It's a classic stress test tactic used by sophisticated financial fraudsters to identify vulnerabilities before executing the real operation. Once outside, the thieves vanished into the urban grid. Paris police launched immediate pursuit, but the getaway was designed to mirror legitimate transport operations. According to police sources, a combination of urban knowledge and contingency planning allowed them to evade capture initially. For the world watching, the question remained: how could one of the most secure museums in the world be so effectively compromised? And what safeguards failed at every level: human, technological, and procedural? The mechanism of this heist illustrates a critical principle of risk management. The higher the perceived security, the greater the complacency. Just like a financial institution with robust audits might still collapse if key assumptions are flawed. The Louvre's reputation for safety became a vulnerability. If you were managing a billion-dollar hedge fund and noticed subtle anomalies in trading software, would you investigate immediately or assume the system's safeguards would prevent disaster? The Louvre faced the same dilemma. By the time the theft was confirmed, investigators had a challenge on multiple fronts: reconstruct the thieves' exact movements, recover stolen assets, and answer the most pressing question: were these thieves professionals operating independently or part of a larger network with international reach? In financial terms, it's the equivalent of tracing missing capital in a complex network of offshore accounts. Visibility is limited, consequences are enormous, and the public impact is immediate. And yet, for all the sophistication of the operation, investigators had one advantage: meticulous digital and physical footprints left behind. Each blind spot exploited, every motion detector bypassed, every route used. All of it could be traced with careful forensic work. But before the Louvre or law enforcement could fully capitalize on these traces, the stolen works had already entered a network designed to obscure provenance. It's a system eerily similar to the shadow markets used in billion-dollar accounting scandals, where value moves unseen until someone untangles the flow. And this is where Part 3 begins: the collapse, the legal consequences, and the real-world impact that would resonate far beyond Paris. The theft sent shockwaves across the art world and beyond. According to Paris police statements, the Louvre faced its most severe reputational crisis in centuries. Insurance underwriters scrambled, reassessing coverage and potential liabilities. The heist was not just about stolen art, it was about trust, credibility, and confidence. Authorities quickly realized the operation had implications far beyond a single museum. Investigators noted that the thieves' network appeared organized with links to international art trafficking syndicates. Recovery of the works would involve cooperation across borders, complex legal channels, and coordination with Interpol. The Louvre itself faced intense scrutiny from stakeholders and government oversight bodies. The first breakthrough came weeks after the heist. Surveillance footage from nearby streets, combined with shipping logs and financial transactions, allowed investigators to narrow down potential transit routes. According to French court filings, the thieves had attempted to move portions of the haul through secondary markets in Belgium and Switzerland, jurisdictions known for opaque art sales regulations. Legal consequences were immediate for anyone connected to these illicit transfers. Customs agents and local law enforcement intercepted several shipments. Investigators discovered falsified provenance documents, a tactic strikingly similar to methods used in high-level corporate fraud, where false paperwork conceals the true source of assets. Each recovered painting told a story not just of criminal theft, but of systemic failures in oversight and verification. The Louvre itself undertook a sweeping internal review. Security protocols were re-engineered, blind spots eliminated, surveillance upgraded, staff underwent retraining, emphasizing situational awareness and rapid response. According to internal reports leaked to the press, budget allocations for security increased by nearly 40% in the aftermath, an acknowledgement that prior investments, while substantial, had failed to account for evolving threats. The fallout extended beyond Paris. Global museums, private collectors, and art insurance firms revisited risk assessments. Policies and procedures were rewritten. The incident became a case study in the vulnerabilities inherent in institutions perceived as untouchable. Public reaction was intense. Media coverage highlighted the scale of the theft. $100 million in art disappearing almost invisibly, and painted a portrait of audacious criminals exploiting both human and technological weaknesses. Debates ignited about security spending, transparency in art markets, and the ethical responsibilities of institutions entrusted with cultural treasures. Imagine being an art investor, or even a visitor, and realizing that confidence in a centuries-old institution could be shattered in less than half an hour. That shock rippled across insurance markets, prompting a reassessment of risk premiums for art collections worldwide. Investigators continued their work. Forensic analysis traced movements, examined tampered alarms, and reconstructed the heist in detail. Each step revealed the complexity of orchestrating such a crime, while also exposing the fragility of systems previously considered robust. The parallels to high-profile financial scandals became clear. In both cases, large sums of value vanished due to a combination of trust, oversight gaps, and sophisticated execution. By mid-2025, partial recovery was reported. Several stolen works were located in clandestine storage facilities. Authorities confirmed arrests of lower-tier operatives, though the masterminds remained at large. Legal proceedings unfolded slowly, hampered by international jurisdiction issues and the opaque nature of illicit art markets. Court documents emphasized that while some operatives faced charges, the broader network was still under investigation. The broader impact is hard to overstate. The Louvre, historically seen as untouchable, had its vulnerabilities exposed in a way few could have predicted. Institutions globally began examining risk differently, acknowledging that perceived security and reputation do not always prevent catastrophic losses. The incident also sparked discussions about transparency and accountability. If a museum with centuries of prestige could be breached, what about smaller institutions, private collections, or even corporate assets? The Louvre heist became a cautionary tale, a reminder that in both art and finance, value without vigilance is vulnerable. In the end, the $100 million theft was not just about art. It was a story of systems, trust, and human assumptions. It exposed the tension between confidence and complacency, the danger of overlooking small gaps in complex networks, and the consequences when preparation falls short. As law enforcement and curators work to fully recover the stolen treasures, the Louvre has emerged with a renewed focus on security, but the psychological impact remains. The world saw how quickly perception can be shattered, and how even the most celebrated institutions are not immune to loss. For viewers, the lesson is clear. Massive value, whether in art, finance, or information, is only as secure as the systems and vigilance protecting it. And sometimes, the most sophisticated protections can be undone by a combination of human oversight and calculated, expert manipulation. The Louvre may eventually recover its treasures, but the story will echo in security audits, boardrooms, and risk assessments for years to come. In the intersection of audacity and opportunity, $100 million worth of culture reminded the world that no system is invincible.